Okay, so we're just going to be looking at putting in an object-ground relationship into our Photoshop grid. So here is the layers have been compressed into one layer with merge visible. And now I'm just going to create duplicates of this layer. So I'm going to go to Layer, Duplicate Layer. Okay. A shortcut would be to Control-click. So 1, 2, 3, 4, plus the original. Great, so I'm set there. So what I need to do now is find an image and bring it in, scale it, and then isolate it. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go into Safari. I've already looked for hospital beds. Under Search Tools, you could select different sizes. And I found the one that I liked. I'm going to View Image. Here it is. And I'm just going to click and drag it directly into my composition. There it is. And it's not a smart, there's no little icon here that shows that it's a smart object. So it's a raster object that I can move around. So here is this object. Using this move tool, I can place it. I'm going to put this at the top of the layers. Now I'm just going to resize it. So I'm going to go to Image, let's see, Edit, Transform, Free Transform. And a box should appear around it. And this way, if I click from the corners, I hold Shift so that the image ratio stays the same. And with this, I could also move it around. Could also turn it slightly. Great. And if I find that I like what I've done, I hit Enter, and it will make the transformation. If I don't, I could hit Escape and do it again. So I'm going to hit Enter because I like it. Great. So I have it scaled. Now I just need to get rid of everything except for the object. And there's multiple ways of doing this. What I'm going to do with this one is, instead of selecting the object, I'm going to select the white and slowly delete all the white that I see. So for this, I'm going to select the Magic Wand tool. I'm going to make sure that it's Add to Selection. I'm going to select, and it already selected a big part of it, so I'm just going to delete that. Great. Now I can go into these areas, clicking and deleting. Delete, delete. If I want to clear the selection, I can go to Select, Deselect. I'm just going to go to all these white areas and try to select them. You can see my tolerance is set up like this. That's a little too much. I'll undo that. Delete. And I'm going to go into these areas. I think I'm going to have to zoom in to some of these areas, so I'm just going to use this. Okay. I'm going to deselect. Let's see if I can. This area. Great. So this is a little trickier. So if I click on this, it will spill over. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to use a different tool, selection tool, see if that works. Not there, but there it seems to. Should be able to delete that. Great. That's maybe a little too much into that, so I'm just going to deselect that. Let me show you this other tool, which is the magnetic lasso tool. Just click and it should right on that edge. I'm going to double click. There is some pixels there. I'm just going to delete those. As much as possible. Alright, that's not bad. I can go through this and go even finer to this kind of detail. I think this image is basically done. Delete those. Great. Deselect. Great. I'm going to fit this on the screen. Here we are. Now I want to select all the pixels in this. And Drew pointed out a great method of doing this by Control, then click, select pixels. And you can see there's some stray pixels that I'm going to have to get rid of. I want to get rid of these and some of these. So I'm just going to go over to my marquee tool here and say subtract from the selection. Click and drag. Let's get rid of those. Great. Yeah, I can get it. Great. So there's basically my selection. You can see it outlined. I don't see too many stray points, a few, so it's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this selection. So I'm going to go up to Select, Save, type in great. Now I can deselect this if I want. And it's going to be okay because I can bring it back up via load selection. Just like that. Okay. So I'm going to go to this first copy, I guess, at the very top. And I'm going to throw my selection on there. Load selection. Roll by 3. There it is. I can move it around if I don't like the position. Let's transform the selection. I can make it larger if I want. I'm just going to put it there, and when I'm done, you can see I want to hit enter. It will make that transform work. If I didn't like it, I could hit escape, and it would put it back to its original form. Now for this, what I'm going to want to do is darken the interior. So I've chosen a dark color here, still within the hue that I was working with, and I'm going to use my paint tool. I want to make sure my tolerance is set at 255. You can see you could play with your opacity here. If I make it 100% opaque, this is what it's going to look like. Undo that. Let's see. and I could make it actually 64%. You could see that it interacts with that space in a more ambiguous way. Okay? I would say stay above 65%, right around there. If you find that you don't like this, you could back away, go higher, or you could add another paint bucket drop into that. And that should be fun. When you like that, just deselect. Great. Oh, did that not do it? Deselect. There we go. And that's kind of the image I'm left with. This is terrible. I'm going to go to this other one here. I'm going to load up my selection. Great, but in this next case, I have this positive form selected, and I want to select all the space around it. So I'm going to go to select, and I'm going to inverse the selection, and you can see now everything else is selected. So if I drop that in, it changes all the background space. Great. I'm going to bring up another one. So for this one, what I want to do is, I already have this background selected, and I just want to play around with the color a little bit. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and there's all kinds of things that you could do. You could change the vibrance, saturation. As long as it says Preview, you could see exactly what's going to go on. So I'm going to cancel that. There's really quite a few things that you could do. In this case, what we're just going to want to do is invert, so we get the complement of the color that we've been using. So here I'm going to invert this. There we go. I'm going to deselect this. And that's what we're left with. These are actually the exact opposite on the color list, and it's looking at not only value, but hue. So now we have one more to do. I'm going to load the selection. And now this is my positive form, so I don't have to invert the selection. All I do is go to my image, and invert the color. There we go. Deselect. Save your file, and you should have then your original, your positive form with inverted colors, your negative space with inverted colors, your negative space in a darker value, and your positive form, or your figure, in a darker value. So those are all the variations that we have.